welcome back to another episode of Between You and Me, and welcome back to another year together. Happy 2025, guys. Woohoo! Round of applause. We made it. We made it to another year, and we made it to another year between you and me. I think I started this podcast, and correct me if I'm wrong, 2022. So we're going on to our third year together, which is quite some time if you ask me. So congratulations to the both of us for sticking around, for making this work, for getting deeper between us, and for really creating this beautiful relationship. I'm very happy to be here for another year with you guys. To talk about a couple random things that have to do with this podcast, I've really been pondering on the fact that I don't know why I've been I don't know why I've been breaking these podcast episodes up into 10, 10, 10. And then this season I randomly decided no, we're just going to stay in season 6 and we're just going to keep counting up from season 6. I completely regret doing that because why did I not do the normal thing and start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and continue going and counting upwards from then? And maybe I'd only be on season 2 since starting video. I would have just taken breaks every 10 episodes. I don't know why I did that, honestly, because now it sounds like I've been around for 6 years because we're on season 6, but I'm not. I haven't, and I don't know if I can go backwards now and change it. And I also don't think anyone really cares, but I think when you're a new listener to a podcast, it makes sense for it to just be oh yeah, I'm on episode 60. Not season 6. So now I regret that. And I'm wondering if I should just go back and start retitling all my episodes and have a new episode number. And then next set of the season, we just come back with episode 70. You know what I mean? Anyways, if you guys care, DM me, let me know if that makes sense. Comment in this YouTube video and let me know if that makes sense. If I should do that. If you don't care, don't say anything. It's whatever. But anyways, with this new year, we're going to be talking about New Year resolutions, specifically the anxiety surrounding the resolutions and the anxiety surrounding a new year, point blank period. I feel like when we approach a new year, there's a lot of pressure to literally transform into a new person and to change everything you wanted to change in the previous year but didn't have a chance to change, and or to reach all the goals that you didn't achieve. So with that comes, like I said, a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure, a lot of feelings of uneasiness. Some people kind of shy away from the idea of resolutions because you're afraid of not meeting them or disappointing yourself or disappointing others. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you are new here, go ahead and follow at Between You and Me podcast on Instagram. That's where I keep you guys all up to date. You guys can also send all your questions to questionsbetweenyouandme@gmail.com. And then, of course, you can go and subscribe to at Between You and Me pod on YouTube, where you can watch these episodes live and in action. And if you are watching live, did you notice I got a new camera? Question mark? I did. I spent a nice pretty penny on this as a Christmas present to myself because my camera was lacking behind in quality. And yeah, we have not upgraded the lens, which honestly, cameras are so freaking expensive. The fact that I have to buy a lens on top of it is crazy. I have a different lens, but it's very zoomed in. You would have literally only seen me from my chest up to the tip of my head, and that's all you would have seen. So I kind of switched back and forth between that lens and my old lens, deciding on what I want to do, but I like the zoom out lens for this one. Not that you guys care. I'm really yapping. All right, let's get into what I want to talk about today. So when you start thinking about what you want your new year to look like, what you want 2025 to look like for you, a good place to start is to reflect on what your previous year was like. I think I've come out of 2024 with a lot of lessons, with a lot of things that I've learned about myself, and a lot of things that I want to bring into the new year and stick to and continue growing. One thing that I struggled with a lot in 2024 and the years previously was consistency to my goals and the direction that I want to go in life. I think in our 20s, a lot of us are very lost. And this was probably my most lost year, if that makes sense. Like, I definitely got the most lost in comparison to any other year of my life. I really feel like I've strayed away from what a classic, like 24, 25-year-old, what their life actually looks like, because I think that what I was craving and wanting based off of what other people had and what I knew that, would be normal for my age was like stability, financial, emotional, like stability in my routine, in my day-to-day life. And that I didn't have for more than half of the year. So I think specifically that was a big thing of mine where it gave me a lot of anxiety not having that type of stability when it came to like financial income, when it came to like things that would keep me busy and occupied day to day. If you didn't know, I've been doing social media as like my full-time position, and in late last year, early this year, I was struggling when it came to my mental health. So I found it very difficult to stay consistent with creating videos, creating content, and making it good while also balancing my mental health, which was already struggling. So, something had to take the burden for it, and it was potentially maybe the views on YouTube and potentially maybe other things, because I wasn't as consistent, which 2 + 2 = 4. It makes sense. But because of that, there was that dip in stability when it comes to my financials, when it comes to my, workflow. So the beginning of this year was very tough when it comes to that. I struggled to find my footing and what I wanted to do with my life, if I wanted to stay consistent to a goal that I had for 10 plus years to continue, YouTube and all these things that I've been doing. Or did I want to branch off and do something else? Did I want to go pursue like a full-time career and really get that stability? But there was like a big crossing point there for me to try and figure out what suited me best and what I really wanted to do with my life. Turns out I'm splitting my time in half. I did half and half. But even just that little turning point was able to give me so much more stability in my life. I feel a lot more balanced. I'm definitely a lot busier and I have a lot more on my plate and a lot more to do, but it almost helped me find like my footing, and it helped me figure out where I wanted to go and what my strengths were and what my skills were and how I could offer it to someone else to benefit their companies or whatever it was. So that was a really big turning point for me in 2024. And moving forward, I definitely want to continue to pursue these things that I've put a lot of time and energy in. 1 being this podcast, of course. 2 being my YouTube channel and still staying very consistent on there and trying to give you guys the best, quality content that I can while also making it something that's fulfilling and happy and fun for me. And 3, finding that balance between where I need to go if it gets to the point where one thing isn't working out and the other might be working out. Like being okay with where life takes me when it comes to my career and not feeling like a failure if certain things don't work out. So this was definitely a big source of my anxiety. And as I approach and move into 2025, I want to make sure that I am setting myself up for success in terms of my resolutions and in terms of things that I want to do in the new year. And I'm not approaching it with a mindset of failure or a mindset of fear of failure, if anything, right? So we're going to go through ways that we can approach our New Year resolutions and goals with less anxiety, with less fear, with less judgment as well, and with more open-mindedness and a lot more structure in terms of achieving these goals. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but like I've had previous years where I've just kind of written up a list and not really had a lot of thought, and it was kind of just like imaginary things that in a dream world would be really nice. Like I wrote down, I want to become really good at cooking like a couple years ago, or I want to pick up a new hobby. I want to start, taking a class somewhere, but it's like, Okay, you're writing it down. You're putting it down on a piece of paper and then you're not ever thinking about it again. That's not really productive. And mind you, those goals, I did learn how to cook, but that probably happened in like the past year or two. And those goals probably came from like 2021. And number 2, what was it? Did I take a class? No, I definitely didn't take a class. I wanted to take a class in like business or marketing or like advertising and learn a little bit about that. But I mean, I definitely could have done that at that point in time. Now, I definitely don't have time to do it. The year before, I wanted to go to school for interior designing. Like, I was genuinely like thinking about that, which I'm not opposed to, by the way. I think interior design is definitely something that piques my interest. But at this moment in time, is it something that I'm going to do tomorrow, or is it something that I want to do this year? Maybe not. I think I want to focus on the goals that I have set already and be realistic about it. If in the next 5 years I decide, okay, I want to do interior design, then I'm not going to stop myself, because I do fuck it up on Sims, to be honest. Anyways, so we're going to start with the overthinking trap. Overthinking can leave you in this like state of paralysis when it comes to your goals, your decisions, your resolutions for the new year. If you are not content with where you are at in your life, if this past year was troublesome, if it was hard for you, if you'd feel like you didn't achieve a lot of the goals that you wanted to get into, you can be left in this like decision paralysis where you're starting the new year and you're either one of two people who sits there and overthinks, ponders, like very seriously judges themselves for how they're going to achieve the goals that they didn't achieve in 2024 in this current year, or you're the latter half of the population that tends to ignore. They don't want to think about things that they haven't achieved. They don't let themselves, even reflect on the past year because they don't want to feel the negative emotions that come with realizing you might have disappointed yourself the previous year, or you might have disappointed anyone else in your life. So in both those case scenarios, you have an element of paralysis because you're either overwhelmed by too much thought, or you're almost paralyzed in your like numbness of emotion. You have no ability to kind of have that element of reflection and even do better in the next year because you don't even want to allow yourself to think about it. I've been both those people. It's a really weird like position to be in, to like think about your new year or who you are or how your year has been in both lights. You can definitely be left with like a lot of what ifs when you're worrying about this year to come. There's a lot of troublesome things that could happen in this future year. And the key is to not focus on the what ifs and to investigate where do they come from. Because traditionally, they come from the fear of failure, they come from an element of perfectionism, or they come from the uncertainty around life that you really haven't become comfortable with or you haven't accepted. This anxiety around decision making and working towards your goals is definitely a loop that a lot of people can be in. And I'm speaking from experience because I think that I've had so many situations where I've thought over and over and over again about what if I want to do this? What if I want to completely change? What if I want to, even just the decision of working freelance, how I am now working for another company, was very challenging for me to get to because I was really, really hyper fixated on the fact that what if I put so much attention and effort into someone else's business that I lose sight of my own, and all the work that I've done would be for nothing, like everything that I've worked towards on my own, in my own quote unquote business would be kind of done for nothing and a waste of time because I lost sight. Okay, I'm repeating myself, but you know what I mean? Like that was definitely a big thing that made me nervous. So being stuck in this loop, this rumination and overthinking mindset, and noticing it and then taking charge when it came to action was a really important step to take. And sometimes it's done reluctantly. Sometimes it's done without the actual urge to want to do it because 9 out of 10 times, going out of your comfort zone is going to be really uncomfortable, and it's gonna evoke these emotions that you're not used to and that you're not happy with, even though somewhere in your logical mind, you're thinking, okay, I know I want to do this. In my example, I know I'm craving this stability. I know I want this, balance in my life. I know I want to go and try something new. I know I want to be surrounded by like-minded people in a different industry. There's so much to think about when it comes to benefits, but the simple fact that it's different to what you've done for the past 5 years really creates this scary atmosphere that we tend to not even take that first step forward because we don't want to experience any of that uncomfortableness or those emotions that come with it. So with this overthinking, with this kind of paralysis when it comes to the emotions, the thought process that you have when it comes to trying new things, making new goals, putting yourself in a different area for this new year of your life, there are ways to break out of the cycle and the loop that you might have put yourself in. These are strategies for overthinking, which you need to be very conscious when you overthink. If you are an unconscious overthinker, we're going to have to first of all work on noticing when it happens, because as soon as you notice when it happens, that's when you can put in these strategies. There is the 2-minute rule when it comes to any goals, any things you want to get done, any things on your to-do list. If you are a procrastinator, which can be a symptom of overthinking, give yourself 2 minutes to finish off whatever you were doing. If that's scrolling through TikTok, if that's completing something on your computer when it comes to work, if that's finishing a text back to someone, if that's you're on the phone with someone, set a timer for 2 more minutes. As soon as that timer's done, you immediately get up and do what you need to do. 2 minutes feels like a lot of time when you're on a timer, but in the grand scheme of things, 2 minutes is very short, meaning that you'll have the time and the ability to get done what you need to get done. And it almost feels like you're lighting a fire under your ass. You're like, okay, I actually need to go and do this after this timer is set. We're getting up and we're getting it done. Another key thing, timers actually I use a lot to my benefit. I'll set timers in multiple different occasions in my life, not just when I'm snoozing in the morning, but a decision-making timer. If you feel like you're in this element of decision paralysis, you're deciding between 2 different schools, if you've got accepted to 2 schools and you're really trying to figure out which one suits you best, but it's a really big decision because there's so many pros and there's so many, there's so many pros to either or school to go to, creating a time and space for you to be flustered, to be overwhelmed, to have these, conflicts in your mind of whether or not you want to go to here or there, but then setting a timer based on how long you're giving yourself to question, overthink, analyze these 2 options. And by the time that timer hits, you decide, and then you don't go back on that decision. It's a challenge, but it's a good idea. Okay, sorry, I've completely moved positions. I look crazy. I've been on a real interesting hair journey, just for a little break from our topic. I've been trying to figure out my wave pattern, right? So I've been putting products on, whatever, this, that. Last night I went to bed without any products in, and my hair a little wet. And I woke up this morning and it was looking really funky. So I brushed it, and now it is a lion's mane. So if you've been watching, you've been like, Alex looks kind of weird today. That's why. Okay. Anyways, moving on. A mindset that I'd like to instill into you guys, which I'm sure you've heard many times before. But when you're sitting and you're thinking about your new year and you're thinking about what you'd like this new year to look like in terms of your goals and your resolutions, I really want you guys to look at it in a sense of progress and not perfection. If you've had the same thing on your 2023, 2024, 2025 goals list, whatever, resolutions or bucket list, I guess, you don't need to get discouraged by that. It takes some people 20 years to reach the goal that they've created for themselves. And that might be because the first 10, they didn't have the right steps to get there. So keep in mind that you need to have a mindset of being okay with slow, steady progress, being okay with you putting in the consistent effort in order to get somewhere. It can be really easy to compare yourself to the people that you're surrounded with, whether it be in their careers or if someone has the goal of getting into a relationship and one of your friends has been in a relationship in and out 5 different times in the past 7 years and you haven't had one, and you'll sit there and be like, well, damn, like, what's wrong with me? But if you change that mindset to the fact that you've had progress and maybe at the beginning you didn't even want to go on a date, and now you've been on a couple dates over the year, you've gotten to know a couple people, and you've started to warm up to the idea of meeting someone. Think about that. Think about whatever situation you've been in. If you start to feel negative about it and start to think, well, I haven't achieved this goal yet, or I'm not going to be able to achieve this goal. Start thinking about how you can rewire your mind to look at it as progress. What steps do you need to take to have this progress rather than what does perfection look like in your eyes? Progress-focused actions when it comes to your career or things you want to do for yourself, maybe lifestyle goals and adjustments, looks like creating lists, sending that first email, making that first call, drafting that first script for whatever you want, or drafting that first essay, like making those baby steps is what progress-focused goals look like. Instead of perfection, when it comes to your goals, looks like exactly what you envisioned, going to the T exactly how you wanted it to be. Which, unless you are the most special person in the whole entire world, is most likely impossible for you to have consistent perfection in your life. It doesn't exist. You as a human being are not perfect. There is no one who is perfect. So how can you expect perfection out of yourself when you are an imperfect person? You are okay with imperfection from others. For the most part, perfectionists are okay with that. They're just harder on themselves when it comes to being perfect and having everything done exactly how they wanted it to be. So give yourself some grace. Focus on the progress that you've made in the past or the progress you can make in the future when you're thinking about what you want to do in this new year. So when we are focused on setting goals for this new year, I want you guys to look at your goals in terms of steps that you can work towards. Similar to focusing on progress over perfection, you need to give yourself the building blocks to achieve a certain goal. Like I talked about in the beginning, how I've written stuff on my, bucket lists for the year of like learn a new hobby, start a new class. And then I put it there and then I never thought about it again. It's like, okay, but Alex, how do you think you're going to get there? You're just going to dilly-daddle and like put it like, oh my God, maybe it'll happen, fingers crossed. No. If you really want to achieve something, if you really want to put your mind to getting a certain goal done, for example, learning a new language, that, and I'm not even kidding with you, has probably been on my bucket list or resolutions or goals for maybe the past 10 years. I'm not kidding. Learning French has been on there every single year, back to back to back without fail. And my problem is in my head, I magically think that, no, yeah, this will be the year that I'll just, poof, I'll know how to speak it fluent, not one mistake in my grammar or conjugation. But the issue at hand is that, I think the issue is pretty clear. That's just not how it works. You need to give yourself stepping stones to get to where you want to get to with your goals. The same goes with if there's anything you want to change within yourself or anything you want to change in terms of your relationships or changing the way you do things, changing your mindset even. You need to give yourself almost like a plan. Write yourself a plan on how you are attempting to achieve this goal. If we look at it in the context of, okay, I want to learn a new language, like I said, then I'd probably start by finding a place that I can learn it, or, making time with like my dad or something to figure out. I don't know, maybe he can teach me. I don't know. See, I haven't even thought about it. That's the crazy part. I've just been doing Duolingo in the past year, which Duolingo has sent me so many aggressive emails that I blocked them. So that clearly didn't work. Yeah, you would need to really sit down, think about what you can do to get to the goal, and write yourself somewhat of a plan, and or imagine the plan, imagine the steps that it'll take. ChatGPT it. Why not? We've got the technology to do it. You barely have to think. All you have to do is create the action. Accountability is the next thing that I'll talk about, because this is additionally, and also arguably, one of the most important steps when it comes to setting goals is making sure you yourself and or someone else is holding you accountable to these goals. That's why I think it is such a common trend for people who are starting like their fitness journeys, for example, to have a gym buddy, because you have someone to hold you accountable in that sense. Someone who has the same goal as you and can really have that outsider perspective that doesn't have the emotional side to it maybe, and is more open to, setting you straight if you're going to go astray from your goals. This is a really positive way to like collaborate on achieving the goals that you want in the new year. I think there's such power in numbers, especially if something is on your bucket list, like starting to go to the gym or being consistent with working out or starting a new yoga class. If you start it with someone else, there's so much more fun in it, and you have that element of accountability where, maybe one day you're tired and you're really not down for it, and someone's like, come on, we got it, no excuses, let's get ourselves to the gym. And that goes the same to if you are trying to start a new business, for example. If you're trying to put your effort into another element of your life, there's so much benefit to asking someone to hold you accountable, but in the same breath, being hard on yourself just enough to the point where you are keeping yourself accountable as well. Where when there are days where you're able and willing to make it to the gym, still using the same example, but maybe you're lazy, maybe you'd rather sit in bed, maybe you'd rather do something else, but you stop and you say, okay, no, we decided early this year that we wanted to do this for ourselves for X, Y, and Z reasons. So let's get it done. No excuses. Let's get ourselves to the gym. Using different tools, literally, like I said, like AI, ChatGPT will actually help you when it comes to, making lists, making ideas of steps to take, but also if you want to do a little bit of organization. If you're a visual person and you want to put things together on paper to see it, I recommend Notion. Literally, I'm using it right now as my podcast planner. But, any other website that's out there that gives you the ability to plan steps out and be a little bit more organized with it will also keep you accountable, because you'll have something to refer back to consistently. Like I said, I used to write in my diary a list of my goals and never look at them again. This is exactly what you don't want to do, unfortunately. But anyways, the final thing that I want to tell you guys in terms of creating these goals, resolutions, and reducing the anxiety that you have for these goals in 2025 is definitely to reframe any form of failure as growth in your life, and to reframe what failure means to you. Great segue, but I have a whole entire episode that talks about the fear of failure. This is when it would be really great if I just numbered my episodes and I could be like, oh yeah, episode 42. So maybe honestly I'll do that. But if you look up fear of failure, that should be the title of the podcast episode, I'm assuming. And I get very into depth of the psychology kind of behind why we fear failure. And this can make a very big impact on the goals that you think you are able to achieve in your life based on how you perceive failure. If you've kind of had this really negative connotation towards failure and you really don't ever want to put yourself in a position to fail, you'll never grow, unfortunately. You need to push yourself into an area of your life where you've got two options, fail or succeed. But if you fail, that doesn't mean you stop there. That means you rework, you reframe, you figure out different ways to get to that goal, and or you adjust your goal. Your goal might change as you grow, as you realize you want different things in your life. And therefore, are you ever really failing? Anyways, that was a really powerful statement to end it on. But I wish you guys the best of luck during this new year. Don't feel the pressure to turn into a literal different person. Don't feel like you have this constant anxiety over pursuing something different, changing who you are, adjusting everything you've done in your life, or feeling bad about stuff that you haven't achieved, okay? This is just the opportunity to work towards goals that you might have, goals that you might be excited about, things that you know you want to change in your life, and a little to-do list on how to get there. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Rate the podcast 5 stars, and I will speak to you guys in my next episode. I love you all. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Bye.